I welcome you to take part in the Q&A. There's microphones on either side for you to come down and ask questions. But first, however, I would also like to introduce the graduate students of the WGS program who are instrumental in helping organize and bring this event about. First of all, if you could stand up, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melody Kosabuki, she's a first-year student in the program, and she's also rejuvenated our local chapter of NOW, the National Organization of Women, so she's becoming a budding young activist. She worked to procure the grant from Humanities Iowa. She got the grant on her first grant writing experience, and for those of you who've had to write a grant, it's a painful experience that's often unrewarded, but she got her first grant the first time out of the gate, so good on you, girl. So, and our graduate assistants, Sarah Naughton and Lemise Lawar, who also were taking charge of publicity and organization of the event. And in recognition of all of their support and assistance with bringing this project about and their hard work, we ask that they be allowed to ask the first questions. And so now I turn it over.
Is there anything that's pressing you want to share? And we'll start with that and be glad to tell you what we think you need to know as we go along in the nicest way.
I have a question. Can I start?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So thank you both for being here. We're really honored to have you. I loved in the film the way that the narratives and the circle conversation was interwoven. And I just wanted to know if you could talk a little bit about your decision to make the film less linear and more, you could see the circular mirroring. And I loved at the end when Madonna was talking on the hotel bed, and I was reminded of her talking on the hotel bed and getting ready for bed years before. So can you just talk a little bit about that decision?
I really appreciate hearing that the circular that you felt, hopefully, like you were going in and out of a space, that you were grounded in it. So we have a version of the film. So I have a co-director. We made the film together. Her name's Christina King, and one of the challenges, especially for historians, is like we wanted to do a whole lot at once. Number one, we had to show everybody that there's a whole, not just a history you don't know, but doing power differently, doing leadership differently, doing community differently, all of those things, while just plain reporting on things that people didn't often know about. Like you can go to Alcatraz Island and still go through the whole thing and not know that it was this liberation site that could have been the most, like many things are incredibly powerful community, because the one thing that, in the great halls of American history, there's never been an actual return other than a tiny plot of a piece of land to indigenous people. So in the plans for the film, the part, it's just the simple fact where we started to go, and this happens when you're writing a paper, where you're like, how do I fit all this in, and how do I make it something you want to experience without just throwing a whole bunch of things at you? So we didn't, we left out so much of what she did in her life, but it wasn't about like this glorified picture of who Madonna Thunderhawk is. It's how she carries the history for everyone. And so the decision to you not, as an audience, sort of, you don't need to know if we're in Standing Rock or Wounded Knee. And when we are isn't as important as knowing that these cycles still go on, and, each generation, takes over. And that was part of the hope that came through. But it also takes it off of being a super top-notch PBS contender, because they like their tragic stories of American history told tragically and in order. So sometimes you forget, I love PBS, but they're still the US government. And they have a vested interest in keeping this story on the down low. The whole unrecognized genocide thing is, I say it jokingly, but it's no joke.
Thank you again for being here today. That was really inspiring, by the way. I have a couple of questions. what I have learned from my experience from interviewing for my thesis is that it's always hard to fight against your own community in order to accomplish change. How did you manage to bring that from your community, like to fight against your community first before fighting against the larger oppressor?
Do you mean in relation to?
Amongst the natives.
You mean over the years of the
Yeah.
struggle?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Back in the day, when I was younger, when the American Indian movement, when we started out, yeah, it was like that. The first thing we had to go up against was the tribal governments, because at that time they were totally under the thumb of the United States government through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So it's just basically, please don't rock the boat, sit down and be, get in the back and be quiet. We don't want to make the government mad at us, that type of attitude. I mean, that's how we saw it. So yeah, we had to either, confront them or go around them. Usually we went around them because we had the people behind us. I remember one time one of the tribal officials was talking to the press at one time, and he was saying, well, these people, they're militants, and we don't know who's guiding them or telling them what to say and do, but they're mostly supported by the young, the old, and the have-nots. Well, gee, that was everybody, So, those are the kinds of things we had to deal with. But we were also, we knew our community and we knew our tribal government, and so, you just, go around them. And that's what we did.
The second one is for you, Beth. The insider-outsider perspective. First, how could you manage as an outsider to get as much information as this from the Native Americans? And second, how did you manage to take into consideration the audience perspective? Because that happens even when you write in a paper, you cannot divorce the audience from the people you're writing about. So just a little bit about that.
That's a great question. It all does come back, there's never one thing, right, to anything. Everything is intersecting and multi-layered. But for the film, for example, to give you just to try to tie it, when I was doing interviews for my dissertation, it really helped that I was young and inexperienced and a little bit dumb, right? In terms of, because it's like you have to basically keep saying, and then what happened, and then what happened, and why did that happen, and let's pretend, Madonna, what year was that? Oh, she, to this day, or it just happened back in the day or back in the day. Right, that's like a 20-year time difference just by the intonation. There's a lot I could say about that because the battle for making a film, your funders, all those kind of things, is about your audience. Because at the core, the audience are the families and the people who are in the film, and expanding out into the community that you want to affect at the very core. But could we do something that still invited all of you in? And maybe not invited, and it didn't invite you in and smack you around for not knowing stuff. Or didn't tell you all the little details that you're used to being told in a film that is made for a non-knowing audience or an outsider audience. So sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. It takes a while to figure out, if you watch it again, you'd find it funnier. I was watching, it was pretty deadly silent in here, because I know people were sort of just when they laugh. That's what I'll say next time. Just put it out there. But the other part is the insider-outsider I'd love to talk about this more at length at some point, but I truly believe two things. When you're working with communities who have been completely erased and exploited and destroyed by histories that are just intended to erase that group of people, you have obligations that you might not have in other contexts. And that's incredibly critical to Indigenous studies. And so that's why I was saying when we were talking at lunch that, even if you're from that community, you're still an outsider in a certain construct, right? You're the one who's getting an education, you're the one who's writing and analyzing. The single best thing is, of course, building relationships, and that's also not something that's always encouraged in academia or filmmaking. People are subjects, right? So this is a big flip and reversal of how that works. I do think what's different about the film too is that it's not just one piece of work, it's my life's work. So I'm part of, in a certain way, I'm part of the community, certain communities, in as much as I have responsibilities to them now. And that's part of what an Indigenous practice is anyway. It's not so much these are my rights, it's more these are my responsibilities. I could go on forever. I love that question.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I just wanted to find out, warrior women, the focus was on women, taking up all this change. I wanted to find out how that would work in a patriarch society. Did you ever face any challenges from the male folk, seeing that the women were in the forefront, having to see your role, Madonna, and your daughter's role, and that you played to bring significant change in your community? How did it work out with the men? Thank you.
Well, I can only speak for my reservation and where I'm from and my people, but originally, before colonization, we were a matriarchal society. So there's remnants of our original lifeways that we still have, and one of them is women, the respect of women. I mean, everybody in our back home, whether it's men or women, we're all raised by a grandma. So that recognition and respect is already there. You don't have to. That isn't a big issue until we get out away from our communities and our society. For example, the UN and other places. Then we have that. But again, back in the day when I was young, we were all rookies when we went out. We didn't know, there was no game plan, there was no, blueprints or anything. It was just we learned as we were going along. But in those days, the whole country was patriarchal, heavy duty. All the media was male dominated. So we had that, plus we had the racism within the media and everything, all levels of society for us. But that's what we had to deal with. We didn't have to deal with male and female, tug of war. We just didn't have that. Individually, yes. Individually, who knows what was going on over here, with personal relationships, and that wasn't the focus. The focus was the land issues, because most of our people that were land-based in this country. And so our struggle is unique to this country, and it doesn't change. So the issues we were standing behind and fighting for back when I was young are the same today, because it all relates to land. It all relates to our inherent rights. And when we say treaty rights, for certain areas of our people that have those treaties that were ratified by the Congress of the United States, that's what we stand on. And we know those. And the country has never obeyed their own laws when it comes to us, but we still have them. And they're still valid. So that's our focus, that's our main issue, and that's what we pass on to the next generation. It's a responsibility. It's not a decision. Am I going to be radical? Am I going to be an activist? That's not part of it for us. You do or you don't, and it's okay, because we're into survival. There's those of our people that go out there and they stand toe to toe with the rest of America. That's okay too. That's survival for us. And then there's people like myself, we take on the other role. And it's all responsibility as a people.
Hello, my name is Varvara, and I'm an indigenous rights activist from Russia. I don't have questions. I just wanted to say thank you, both of you, because this movie gave me historical perspective, and I greatly appreciate, Madonna, your work, because as an indigenous activist, I can freely go to the United Nations now wearing my traditional garment and didn't think about, that I look differently. And now they can do it, and we can speak for our rights. And thank you for your work 30, 40, 50 years ago. And thank you very much for this movie, because we could, see it and remember. And Wendy, thank you for bringing our guests.
So please don't leave without making sure we can stay in touch, because this is also the network. We have a UN oral history project where we're trying to find young people from each geopolitical region representing indigenous peoples to do oral histories with the first delegates, the first people who started to go to the UN from your part of the world and your nation, and that's really important, because that's one of the things the film just touches on for just a little bit, but there's that's one of the things we're working on now, are more pieces of media that explore those things that are experienced internationally, and the fact that the UN, the movement for global indigenous rights, before we used the word indigenous, was started at Standing Rock in 1974. So that cycle and circle of history is such a big deal, and I'm sure that there's really important stories from your land that we need to know.
Hello. So it seemed like kind of the pattern of the movie, there's so much feedback with these mics, that it seems like there were sort of different battles, different fronts throughout the course of it. And it seemed the most recent that I'm familiar with is with the pipeline, but then also with the what's finally been coming to light about the indigenous women that are just being kidnapped and disappeared, and the trafficking that's going on there. So I'm kind of wondering, is that the next front, or is there also something else that, specific that those of us who are non-indigenous can come alongside and try to be supportive?
Yeah. Okay, first of all, personally, I'm part of a group that you mentioned, the grandmothers group, and what we do it's twofold. We have the YGs, who are the young grandmothers. They're the ones that are working and raising grandkids, and then we have the OGs, and that's the old grandmas, and I'm part of that. And we're the ones that go to all the meetings. We can attend a lot of things. And our main focus is support, because the younger ones now, it's their generation, it's their time. We had our time. But one thing that we did have in our younger years is we had elders who had our back, and that was a real important strength for us in those days, those turbulent days we had. So that's what we are doing now as part of our responsibility as elders, is to support whatever the younger ones are doing. And right now there's two main issues, and one of them is the missing and murdered indigenous women and children. And that's, of course, nationwide. But right now, back in South Dakota, we're located in the north central part of the state, and the KXL pipeline that Trump brought back to life when he got in power, that's coming from Montana and crossing the state of South Dakota. They rerouted their pipeline so that it won't be coming on any reservation, but it comes very close to our border. And my reservation is the Cheyenne River Reservation. Our reservation is named after a river, but that's the government for you. Anyway, so the danger there is the man camps. They put up these prefab trailer camps for the male workers that come in by the hundreds. And anybody, any walk of life can come and work there, and it's big money. So then we have the danger of the trafficking, the sex trafficking, but also MMIW, but also the drug trafficking. So we know that's going to be stepping up. So that's our main focus right now. And the women have organized, and we support the work that they do. And for example, they just finished up yesterday, was it the day before? Anyway, was the training for
Self-defense.
Yeah, self-defense. And veterans that came to Standing Rock and in support, they've kept in touch with us, and they come and they do these trainings as volunteers. So that's one of the areas that we're working on. And then, of course, there's still legal trafficking of our children with the Department of Social Services. So we're working on putting together, the grandmothers group, are supporting an organization called Simply Smiles. And they come in the summertime and have a summer camp for the children in just one area of our reservation on the east end where I live. And we met with them and started talking with them. And they've been there come every summer for about 10 years now. So they know the reservation life. They understand. They're accepted. People believe them. They're non-natives, most of them that come. So we met with them. We were talking, and how can we be more effective? And we said, well, look, we can tell you, we need kinship care. We don't need foster care. We don't need children being taken off. We need kinship care, and it needs to stay on our lands. So right now we're working on a children's village. And this is all online. Simply Smiles, it's online. You can check it out. And also all of our work that we're doing, Warrior Women, we're online.
So warriorwomen.org/blog. Gotta come up, blog. It's such an awful word. I'm like, blog. But you'll remember blog. But that's where we're continuing to put up trying not to do as much, creation and writing, but getting the voices from the community rather than about the community. So as much updates as we can get on there and make that a source. But I did just want to today there was Harvey Weinstein, actually, it's just the fact that he's held accountable at all in our white supremacist, colonial, heteronormative patriarchy is pretty amazing, actually, and it shouldn't be, but it is. And just connecting that up with MMIW. MMIW is often, it's become something that it wouldn't remotely have been known, even though it has been happening since invasion, right? That's, if you need land and you need to take away the power of women and you need to take children. And so it's part of a history, but I also just wanna encourage you, because people ask this, where please follow us, buy a bar of soap, get some gas money to grandma's, it all helps because it all goes directly somewhere. But y'all know the world is on fire, and it's either on fire or it's flooding. So you have issues here. And one of the most effective things is, what are the things you do in the place that you are in building community? And we don't have time for Iowa nice or even civility when it comes to a world on fire. And I just encourage you to fight the status quo, fight your instinct, and get involved with those things that are local. And there's I'm actually putting together a little bit of a guide, which is, I heard Madonna talking to someone who was like, Madonna, I need your advice. I've got this community issue. And she's just like, okay, here's 5 things. And it's like, I'm going to 5 simple guides to making change that we're going to put up soon.
This is not a question. I want to thank you, both of you, so much for your work. And I'm one grandmother to another grandmother that I thank you.
Thank you. That's exactly what we mean.
Yeah, I was going to say the wetlands project. I mean, there are local initiatives in town as well that need local support, that are striving to preserve the natural beauty and enhance the natural beauty while also serving a civic good. So there are several wetlands projects being discussed and researched right now. So support them. Go to council meetings, find out more information, ask around, and support the local initiatives. This is something Madonna was stressing earlier. Support the local initiatives because they need as much help as anybody, right? With Iowa being one of the worst states in terms of water quality, it's not just a now issue, it's a future issue. It's a yeah, I mean, it's going to really, it's going to get bad. That sounds like an understatement, but yeah, sorry.
My question is, what sparked your interest in following Madonna's, what's the word?
Life's work?
Yeah, life's work.
Madonna tells a story about when I came to her house for the first time. And I still don't understand why you think I was blonde. Light hair, I know. I just, actually, I really appreciate that because I think it is important to say that what we do is not the typical, like she's not my subject and I write about her. We create things together over the years. But to answer that question, like the spark is also just a good lesson. I can't help but always teach. And that's not a bad thing, I'm just mocking it. Is when you find something that can stay in your heart, because you're going to be doing it for years. If you're doing a PhD or you're working on something, we really like get along. And when I met her, I felt like I got a chance to see and experience things that I just dreamed of being alive in the social movement era. And then all the years that we worked together, I'm at Standing Rock, and I had a moment where I was both supposed to film her, you saw it in the film, but also be there and be present and be part of the community and be part of the change. So I was sort of freaking out because it was like going through all these emotions. I remember flying home on the plane, and I was teaching at the time, so I would teach using FaceTime on top of Facebook Hill, and then freak out because I was watching the same cycle happen. That everybody would come and talk to the men, and the same women who were seen 40 years ago were doing the same things, each of it advancing a little bit, but I was in charge of doing various things. One of them like vetting the media, because there were thousands of people that came in and wanted to tell a story. But I just remember flying home and sitting in the plane, and it'd been days since I'd had a shower, and people kept, and I was just like, you know, I just acknowledged that that was the case. I was aware that I didn't smell good. And then we talked about it, but I just was sort of overwhelmed with the fact that I got to time travel. I felt like I went to the past and the future at the same time, and I was really overwhelmed to see my thesis, a really like boring sounding thing, but something I had held on to for all these years, come alive in front of me, and see the way these women did what they did, and see the matriarchy at play. Because now it's like, even though now is the time, I mean, it's always the time for justice, right? But now is really the time for, you know, the power of the matriarchy and, you know, needing a planet and all. So it was, I don't know. What do you think, Madonna? Why do I like you so much?
She's badass.
Well, I just when she was mentioning about when I first met her, you know, this had happened to me over the years since the 70s, okay? Especially since the Wounded Knee occupation of 1973. Then after that, it was like all this different people coming and going. But there were times when someone would refer someone and then they'd come and name drop to me, and I'd think, well, it's all right to talk to them, I guess, because so-and-so sent them, you know. But you never hear back from them. They'd come and ask you all these questions and take a picture, and then they leave. You never, yeah, well, I'll let you know before I write anything. I'll, you know, run it by you. You'll get a copy and all of that, and then you never hear from them. So, you know, after years of this, finally I just thought, you know, I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm not gonna go there. I mean, you never hear from them again anyway, and then what are they gonna be printing anyway? I don't know. They could be telling a bunch of fake stuff about me, you know, fake news. And, you know, I just thought, I don't do that anymore. So all of a sudden, just out of the clear, I get this letter, you know, snail mail before, you know, phones and all of that. So I get this letter, and it was from Beth, and she said, I'm coming to South Dakota, and here's what I'm writing about and why and all of that. It was a short letter, but to the point. And then she said, and you can call here and you can call Colette. So I thought, whoa, I can call Colette. Hey, that's cool. So I thought, well, yeah, this is interesting, you know? And then I stuck it up on the wall above the phone, landline, okay? For you younger guys, anyway. And it was like she was gonna come in the fall. And one day I answered the phone, and I was standing there talking, and I was, you know, fiddling with that paper on the wall, and then I looked close, and it said, oh my God, she's gonna be here in a week. You know, so then I called her Colette, and she answered, and I thought, okay, well, we set this up and everything, and then I thought, you know, it's cold, it's winter, and we're way out in the boonies, you know, I didn't think she'd show. I thought, wow, it sounds good, you know. But then I forgot about it. And then one day, knock, knock, knock. And I'm there with my grandkids, you know. And so I go and answer the door, and there she's standing. And I told her, I thought, oh man, it was so cool, because she looked like she walked out of the 60s. You know, she had a backpack, you know, and she was dressed for the weather, you know. And I don't know why I said blonde hair, but her hair was lighter, you know.
I was backlit. It was blowing in the wind.
And she's, you know, I'm Beth Castle, you know. And I thought, she actually came, you know. And she came in, she sat down, made herself comfortable. We started visiting. I offered her tea or whatever, water, whatever it was, and she took it and she drank it. I mean, there was times when people came to my house and sat real still, wrote things down and left. You offer them even water or whatever, they wouldn't even drink it. They just leave it sitting. But she just kind of kicked back, made herself at home, and felt, you know. And that was so cool, you know. So we've been, you know, and she's like my daughter now, you know. I can be crabby with her if I want to.
I've
So it's
never
all good, you know,
experienced
because
that.
she's real, you know, and it wasn't, you know, I waited through all these other ones before her, so it was amazing to find somebody real, you know.
Is there any last things you'd like to leave our audience with? I mean, those things that you wish had been brought up?
Well, it's just, I do enjoy talking about this part because it's, you know, it's sort of like how the sausage gets made, right? Like, how do you do these things? And I did want to say, you know, not everybody has to go, like, join a family and do it for the rest of your life. But what you can do, and again, just speaking to a university audience, whether you're students or researchers, you know, all those small things are important that she mentioned. Because I remember Poxy Lonehill giving me a diuretic. Somebody gave me actually did give me something to drink to test out like my metal. And so I was like, I took it, I'm like, I will drink this no matter what pain it causes. But it was her fault. There was only one bathroom in her house and no one got to use it for a day. So, but the point is that you still can practice like ethical research methodology, and it makes all the difference in the world because you're gonna enjoy what you're creating way more because you're doing it in collaboration with the people it's about and ensuring that it goes back to those communities for direct use. And to me, if we do that more in the you know, institutions and universities, we do community applied research, we do engaged research. That means you're producing something that has a direct effect. And I've already heard, I mean, I think this whole event came out of something like that, where it started in a classroom. And it can be really powerful. I just can't encourage that enough. And, you know, solidarity, people, you know, we gotta vote hate out. We gotta vote, we gotta work together. Thank you. And follow the warriorwomen.org/blog and, you know, contact us and get engaged locally.
Thank you.
Thank you.